Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another 3D Total interview. Today we have the amazing and phenomenal Sam Yang with us.
Hey
Hello,
guys.
yeah. So if you're watching this, then I'm pretty sure you're already familiar with Sam's work. But just in case, to give him a formal and proper introduction, Sam is a digital artist and illustrator based in Toronto, Canada. His work radiates a harmonious mix of vibrant colors and effortless stylized details that draws the viewer into the character's world, personality, emotion, and just all in all gives you such a whimsical vibe. Sam is an independent artist. He runs his own Patreon, but he's also a very well known creator here on YouTube and Instagram. So today we're going to be talking with Sam about his new first art book with 3D Total. So thank you so much, Sam. This is such an awesome opportunity to get to chat with you today.
Yeah, for sure. It's awesome to be here. Really happy to be here and share my thoughts with you guys.
Of course, I'm sure like everyone is really excited for this book. There's some like times where you've been wanting someone to launch something for so long. I think an art book is that one thing that everyone is always like, when are we gonna get an art book? So like finally getting this like art book, and I'm sure everyone's excited. But before we jump into all that, do you want to take your time to like give yourself a personal introduction, like beyond the like introduction? Just take your time to tell us about your artistic journey and how you became the artist that you are today.
Yeah, so for me, like art has always kind of been a part of my life to some degree. You know, when I was very young, I started just doodling with colored pencils on pieces of paper. I think maybe when I was like 3 or 4, I was drawing dinosaurs, and my parents were like, "Hey, these are pretty good dinosaurs." So they put me in classes, and ever since then, I've just been kind of in and out of art classes. You know, always keeping art as a thing that I've done in my life. And then up until high school, I went to an art high school, and there were some like pretty big life decisions at that time. You know, whether to keep art around and do it as a career or to just keep it as a hobby and not really put too much energy into it. But I think, you know, I went into design university, and throughout like my 3 years there, I never really let art go. And then during the lockdowns, you know, when everybody was home, I just figured, let's put some more energy, let's put some more effort into this thing. And yeah, I guess people really seem to resonate with the drawings that I made, and now it's turned into this crazy thing, and I'm launching an art book, which is just wild to me.
Definitely, it's always very fascinating to see like how one step, like, I just like, oh, maybe I just start this, let me just do that, let me just post on Instagram, and that kind of like just changes your whole life, and like it starts this crazy thing that you would have never thought. I mean, in your head, you're like, well, I hope this will turn into something, but like you just never know how like
No, you can't even imagine it. Yeah.
exactly, and I think that's so amazing. So speaking of like your in the past, you said you were always into art. Can you tell us about some of your inspirations, your early inspirations growing up, whether that was like media, artists? Just tell us a bit about that.
I think when I was growing up, for the most part, like I was in art classes, and they taught a lot of art based on the old masters, like the Renaissance masters, you know, the very classical kind of realistic and very technical styles. And those were the people that I looked to when I was really young. But I think as I got older, as I got started exploring on Instagram and started following other artists and learning from them, I think I gained much more appreciation for stylized art, for art that's more expressive of oneself. And that's like one of the biggest inspirations for me when I first started doing what I was doing on Instagram. You know, I was looking at artists like Ross Tran, I was looking at artists like Adi Gailon, like Guez Rap, you know, all these crazy artists. And I was just, you know, taking little tidbits from each and every single one of them, just seeing how they do things and how they kind of made a career for themselves. And those were some of my, I would say, like probably my biggest inspirations when it comes to my personal career. And I would probably attribute like the most credit to these other artists who share their work online as well.
Yeah, it's always amazing, like seeing different artists, and that moment when you find like you come across an amazing artist that kind of just like, wow, I want to do that. I want to be like that. This is like I want to just, do what this guy's doing or do what this girl's doing. It's
I'm
always,
like, I see it. I'm like, how do you even do that?
how do you even
I want
possibly
to get
get
there one day.
Yeah, exactly. I totally feel it, and I'm sure most people can relate. I wanted to ask you, so when you started off your digital art journey, like what did you do? Like what are some of the actions you took like when you started off to kind of like get you like where you are today?
Yeah, so like when I first began digital art, I think for me personally, I had a bit of a head start because I was in traditional painting for so long. I've done so much work already with mixing paint on a physical palette, so there was a base understanding of colors and some of the fundamentals like lighting and just general color theory, as well as drawing with shapes and lines and stuff like that. So I did have a bit of a head start for that, but for the most part, digital is just like I just had to go on YouTube, look up a bunch of different tutorials on how to do this specific thing, how to do that specific thing, and try to figure it out so that I can kind of transfer my skills from traditional to here. But other than that, I think going back to our previous point, I think there's a lot of inspiration to be taken from other people that you see online. Like, for example, if there are people out there who are following me right now, maybe they're trying to emulate some of the things that I do in my work, right? Maybe they like the way I use my colors, so they try to, study that and implement that into their own work. I think that's something that if you do it well, you can definitely give yourself a huge boost in terms of your learning and your progression in terms of art. And for me, that's kind of something I did too. Like I was always bad at stylization, so that's one thing that I just couldn't crack for the life of me. And I looked at other artists and how they did it, right? I looked at artists from Disney like Glenn Keane, like Aaron Blaise. I looked at the way they stylized their eyes, their mouths and noses, how they draw expressions, and I kind of just work backwards from that, take some cues from them, not necessarily copy everything they do, but just look at the things that I like and try to implement it into my work. And I think that's like a huge, like it's just very, very helpful in terms of boosting your knowledge and progressing your art.
Definitely, I agree. I think I remember watching one of your past videos talking about like how you struggled a lot with stylization and showing some of your older work that was more like very like hyper realistic and more like detailed and closer to like work that you see in the fine arts program like you said, and then how you try to like leave that kind of like how do I put this? You changed that by like drawing your inspirations, and I think at the end of the day, that's how you kind of like find your, excuse me, that's how you kind of like find yourself and you find your voice in like art. You kind of just like pick inspirations from here and there, and naturally you kind of just shape this thing that's unique to you. And I think that's like what every artist has to remember, that it's not just about like forcing it, but like just kind of letting yourself, okay, what do I like and how do I put this that I like from this artist into mine, rather than just copying directly every single thing like from each artist. Like kind of just like picking what you like and like making it unique to you, which you did. And you have this very signature look that like the moment you see this, you're like, that sound like right, that sound. It's so
awesome.
it's very it's not easy to get that kind of like look nowadays. All the artists that exist, sometimes I look at my work, I'm like, this looks like everyone's work. But then, when you have such a distinct look, I think that's so unique, and I think you did a great job capturing that, like all that, and like making it yours. So perfect, exactly. I love that. So we're gonna talk a bit more about like how you became like how you made art your career. Can you tell us a bit about your artistic journey in that sense, like in your art career journey?
Yeah. So art career journey and artistic journey, I feel like the two are really closely intertwined. So the better the quality of your art, the more you can progress in your art career. I think there usually is a tendency for maybe beginners to think that I have to post at this exact time, get this exact number of engagement, and then I can grow my account. But like I always try to tell people, it's not about any like social media hacks. It's not about posting reels at this time of day. It's just the quality of your content. Like if you're putting your passion into it, if you're doing genuinely the best thing that you can do, people are going to take notice, regardless of how hard the algorithm tries to beat you down. And on Instagram, it's kind of rough right now. But yeah, so that's point number one, is to keep in mind that it's about the quality of your work. Point number two is to just jump into things and just try things. Like it doesn't hurt. It literally doesn't hurt. So I'm at like 1 point something million on YouTube right now, which again, that number still blows my mind. But the whole reason that channel started is just because this company was like, they sent me an email and they were like, can you review this drawing tablet for us? And I was like, okay, maybe I will. So I had to put my face on camera. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to edit a video, put it together. But I just said, you know what? Let's just give it a shot. And after I did it, now that opens the door for the second video. That opens the door for the third video. And next thing you know, it's turned into this thing that has a whole life of its own.
Yeah, definitely. You know, at the end of the day, there's this like quote that I heard where it's like, if you don't start a moving car, you're never gonna get anywhere, right? You just have to like start. And I totally agree with like, you know, some people just always, they kind of get like narrow-minded or like blindsided by like one vision of like, oh, I need to start making this or like I have to crack the algorithm or that. Meanwhile, it's like they lose focus on like the main thing, which is your art. Like you have to like try to like harness your art and like be true to your art, and then people see that. People naturally see to art that kind of has like true like identity, and they gravitate to that, and from there eventually everything like a puzzle piece just connects. You just have to like try to focus on that and make that work first. So definitely I totally agree. So let's get to the fun part. Let's talk about the art book. I'm sure everyone is banging their table waiting for like the art book. Let's get to the art book. So can you first tell us the title of the book, tell us like what this book is about, just give us introduce the book for us.
Yeah, okay. So this book is titled The Art of Sam Yang. It's very simple, very straight to the point. And in the book, basically, you're gonna get kind of like my backstory, essentially. Like I'm gonna write a little bit about my own early art journey, like how I got started, what are some of the things that influenced me early on, how I took the steps to kind of get to where I am. So you'll learn a little bit more about that. You're also going to see there's some cool stuff in there. Like you're going to see some older pieces that I made way back in the day, and they're like, I wouldn't say I'm like the most proud of them, but I think it's just interesting to be fully open and just put some of those out there. So that's an interesting part. Something else is like you're going to see obviously a lot of the work that I've already published online, but of course at very high resolution. But on top of that, you're also going to see some, I've included a bunch of sketchbook work and practice work. So things that might not necessarily make it onto like the Instagram account or not even onto my stories. So there's some behind the scenes there. I also do a couple lessons on expressions and lighting, which are some of my absolute favorite things to draw when it comes to art. So I'm really passionate about those, and I think those are going to help a lot of people out. It's just like a little lesson in there for you guys, for those of you who want to learn a little bit. And yeah, I mean, like this whole thing comes together as a package, and there's a couple of galleries in there of a lot of my work, like both older work as well as recent favorites. So it's really, really exciting.
Definitely, I could feel the excitement coming from you. Like you're like, oh, it's gonna be this.
It's radiating.
And you could tell that there's been a lot of like passion and like a lot of energy that's gone into this book to like make it this project that you're kind of really proud of and excited to share with the world. And I'm sure everyone is like gonna like when they receive that copy of the book, they're gonna feel that passion that you poured into it. Like when they,
I hope they do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Like definitely. Like already, I can feel your energy from here. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of effort gone into that, so it's perfect. So I really love that you said you shared some art that you maybe not perfect for Instagram, social media, but like still you felt like people need to see this. I think like for me, that's what I really enjoy about art of books. I think it's getting to know the artist on the more personal level, getting to see where they started from, and kind of seeing the behind the scenes that you don't really get to see, you know, because like Instagram, social media, you have to keep like a more professional presence. Maybe you don't show like your old stuff, your ugly stuff. You want to kind of like keep that away to seem more professional. But at the end of the day, all that makes, you know, the artist, that's what kind of got us to wherever we are in our journey. And it's always very important to like not neglect that part and like to show it as well, so that it can also like encourage people who are like maybe farther behind and want to get to where you are to like see it and be like, okay, definitely, like I can get there. I can be like that one day.
It's like everyone starts somewhere.
Exactly. So that like I'm so glad you included stuff like that. The sketches, everything all sound very like very interesting. So can't wait to see them. So let's talk a bit about the cover of the book. Can you tell us about the cover, why you decided to choose that cover, and like how the process behind making the cover of your book?
Yeah, okay. So the cover is actually an older piece that I did. I want to say maybe a couple years ago now. It's probably around 2 years old. And that cover it was originally inspired by a photography that was taken by someone who happened to, I believe he lives in New York. And I was chatting with him about it, and he was super open to me using it as a reference, and even using it as a cover of the book. So really, really awesome guy. But that piece, like it kind of came together just on the spot. I was kind of going with the flow and just adding different elements here and there. And by the end of it, I was like, this is probably one of my favorite pieces that I've ever made. And it stayed that way for a while until recently. Like I was like looking for a good image to use for the cover of the book, and I was like, this would be a really good piece for a book cover. And then I pulled it up and I was like, oh my god, like the perspective, the lighting in here, everything is like so off. So that's the difference that 2 years is going to make for you, right? And I put a perspective grid, I slapped it over it. I was like, wow, like I can't believe I let this pass and put it online. That's crazy. So I corrected the perspective grid. I redid a lot of the signage. I kind of like played around with the colors a little bit. I didn't change it too much, to be honest with you. I just like corrected some of my older mistakes because I felt like the old piece already did it like conveyed the feeling and the emotions that I wanted it to convey. So I didn't change it too much, but I had to kind of do a little remaster of it and turn it into the cover. And on the back is also a similar piece. On the back there is a nighttime piece. Again, like probably one of my all-time favorites. I have a thing for this kind of darker, moody aesthetic, even though I tend to draw a lot of really bright scenes. But for also for the cover, like for the title, like the art of Sam Yang, I actually went ahead and made that myself. And the when I was just putting it together, I was like, how can I frame this in a way that looks good and doesn't take away too much from the image itself on the cover. So when I was putting the title together, I was like squishing the font around and stuff, and I saw like the opening in the M, and I was like, wait a minute, that kind of looks like the shape of a little cat. Maybe I'll turn this into a cat. So I added 2 eyes into it. I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. So I turned it into a cat. And the next thing I know, I'm showing it to my friends. I'm like, what do you guys think of this? And they're like, why don't you add a burb too? And I was like, you know what? You're right. I can't do this title without my iconic burb. So we put the burb in like the other, in Sam. The art of Sam. No, we put the burb in Yang. We put the burb in Yang, and we had the cat looking down at the burb. And I feel like that's just it. It's like really whimsical. It like captures this kind of the whimsical aspect of a lot of my work. So I think everything just kind of came together. Obviously, this is not what I envisioned at first for the cover, but this is probably the best thing that I could make right now.
Definitely, it's all the like, it's a process, and when you're doing something, things just kind of like come on the spot and kind of just like ties everything together. I think it was a perfect little detail, it kind of like gives a bit of personality. It's kind of like an Easter egg. It's kind of like, it kind of just works, especially capturing, it kind of just ties everything together because like this is an art of book. It's an art of Sam Yang. So like, everything kind of just works and everything kind of just like, it's kind of just comes together to make this amazing book. And I definitely think that the cover, everything like already looks so beautiful. Everything just works, and even the inside of the book, like it's just already looks so beautiful. So obviously it has your arts in it, so of course, but then yeah, it definitely shows how much care has been put into this book. What is personally your favorite chapter or your favorite part of working on the book? Like, what did you enjoy working on the most? And what do you think, like, you're just so excited for, like, people to see this? Is like, oh, gosh, yeah, definitely, this is my best bit of the book.
That's, like, so hard to pick because there's so many good parts of this book. But I would say if I have to pick just one thing for this whole book, it's my traditional sketches. It's the work that I don't get to share online, because they're not colored, they're simple, and they're really rough, and they're done in like maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes, sketches like those. And if I shared those on Instagram, I'd probably start losing followers. So I don't want to do that, right? But it's just like, I like the idea that I'm sharing something, like, not also I'm sharing like the work that I've already made, the work that I'm really proud of, the work that you see online, but I'm also sharing like another side. There's some rough sketches, some quick sketches, practice work, things that are timed to like 30 seconds, 5 minutes, stuff like that. There's not like, obviously that's not going to take up like the majority of the book. That's just like a sprinkled throughout. But I think that's that aspect of being able to see something that's very intimate to me. I think that's probably my favorite part of this book.
Definitely. No, I totally agree with you. Like it always feels like it's like the deeper connection to like include things that you usually wouldn't show. It's like kind of like showing more of yourself and kind of like connecting more with your viewers and kind of like being open about like, hey, this is me too. It's not always perfect. It's always like you're gonna lose followers. I doubt it. Like everyone's probably gonna. I love seeing messy sketches from other artists. It kind of just makes me so excited because it's really cool. It's not as messy as most of them say, but then secondly, it's always like very reassuring. It's like, oh, thank God, I'm not the only one who has like messy sketches. But yeah, Instagram and like social media kind of like just punishes you if you try to do anything that isn't perfect and isn't like trendy and whatnot. It's like, ugh. But yeah, totally get you. So it's really cool that we're gonna see some of that in this book. So yeah, before we kind of wrap up, I wanted to ask, because like everything's a process, everything is journey, there's ups and downs. What was your highest and lowest moment working on this book, if you're comfortable to talk about it?
Yeah, of course. Highest moment is probably today. Like we just launched this book on Kickstarter today, as of the time of this interview. So this is definitely the highest moment. This morning I've just been working for like 2 hours before it launched, and I've been like checking my phone nonstop, just being in contact with the people at 3D Total and making sure everything goes smoothly. So this whole day, I feel like I'm probably gonna remember this very, very clearly for the rest of my life. It's been a very exciting day. This is probably the highest of working on this book so far. The lowest, I would have to say, it might be, there are a couple of low points. So we originally planned to release this book like last year, but because I was doing so many things at once and I was still trying to get into like a rhythm with the work that I was doing, like on YouTube, Patreon, posting on Instagram and all this stuff, I was like, guys, I don't think I'll be able to like put in enough effort to make something that I'm genuinely proud of releasing out there right now. So so back then, like, I had to ask for an extension if we could push the release date back, and that's today's release date. But yeah, overcoming that was really, really great, because I've settled down into a better schedule. I've cleared up more time to be able to work on other things. But that was probably a low point, because I was like, man, I didn't do it. Like, there's all these other artists who are doing it. Like Lois is doing it, Guiz is doing it. Why am I not doing it right now? So that was probably one of the low points. Another low point is assigning images to specific blocks of text on the Google Drive that we're working on. That is just like the most tedious process, and I'm looking through folders of like hundreds of images. I'm like, okay, which one goes with this block of text? So that was like a really difficult part. That was like also one of the low points. That's right up there with having to extend the release date of this book.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I totally feel you. Like trying to, it's like kind of name your layers after you make like an artwork with like 100 works and like try to go.
It's too much.
Definitely. I totally think it was the right decision, if you're too busy so you don't get like, burnt out and overstressed. And then, now that you took more time to focus and put more passion into this book, is definitely gonna show more. Because like if you do something and you're not really happy with it, you kind of rush it, it's gonna show, right? People are gonna notice. So I think it was a great idea that you decided, it's like, you know what, no, I can't do this right now. I'm gonna push it back until I'm ready to put in as much effort that it deserves, and so that when the viewers and everyone who gets it finally receives it, you're gonna be like, this was totally worth it. This was amazing. This is perfect. So I totally get you. It's, I always love asking that question because, like I said, it's always a journey, and most times we always see the pretty part, the final picture, like ta-da, artwork, right? Like this is the artwork, the final thing, but then you don't really know what went behind, like all the effort that goes behind to make this a final piece, to kind of make this amazing work of art. So definitely I love hearing that. I'm so glad that you pushed through, and now we have this amazing book.
I had my fair share of struggles.
Exactly. So I'm really excited. I'm sure like everyone is so excited to finally get a copy of this book. Like I said in the beginning before we started, congratulations on the success so far. It's doing so well, and I'm so excited to see. Can you tell us a bit about like some of the extra goodies, actually? Like what can you get from backing this book?
Yeah, so we got a bunch of extras. It's probably too many for me to list off the top of my head, but I know that we got a sketchbook. We have a custom sketchbook coming out. That was one of the options that I was talking to 3D Total with, and that's one that really spoke to me because like I love doing tactile physical sketching. That's how I got started doing art. And even though all the work that people see nowadays is digital, like I still think there's so much value to just holding a pencil and drawing in a sheet of paper, right? And not being able to just undo every brushstroke, right? Just live with your mistakes, right? So that one's really special to me. But we also have high quality prints. We have prints of some of my favorite pieces, and some of them you can get signed as well. So we do have signed prints that are available. And there's also a burb keyring, and a pigeon keyring. So there's two burbs, okay, two species of burb keyrings, and they're the cutest things. I absolutely adore them. Other than that, like there's also a very bougie special edition for this book that people have the option of getting. So there's going to be a limit to the number of those books that are going to be out there in circulation, and I specifically designed the cover of it to look very classy and very premium, and it's probably my favorite look for this book. If I can have every copy look like that, I would love to have it look like that. But of course, production, it's a very, very high production kind of edition of this book, and that one I'm really excited about. I'm really excited to see that one as well.
Everything sounds so awesome. Definitely looking forward to it. It just sounds so exciting. Like one of my favorite parts of like getting backing a book on Kickstarter, like a 3D Total specifically, is all the extra goodies, the add-ons, and like it's always so fun. It's so fun. So definitely, I'm sure so many people are excited for that as well. Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up and coming to the end of the interview. Before we finish up, can you please give some general advice to beginner artists or artists who are want to start, want to eventually, they look up to you and they want to get to where you are? What general advice do you have for those artists?
Focus on your work. Focus on your work more than focusing on trends. Focus on the quality of your work more than trying to game the algorithm. Okay, I would say that's definitely number one. And look at your peers, look at what other people are doing, and try to learn from the things that you like about other people's work. And always just, I guess, be open-minded, right? Always be open to learning from other people. Always keep in mind that your work is probably not the best work out there. And I'm saying this for myself too. I always have to remind myself that there's always someone who knows how to do something that just will blow your mind, and you should always be open to learning from other people to help you improve your work. And once the quality of your work is up there, your options for a career also open up.
Thank you so much, Sam. This was an awesome interview. It was so fun talking to you today. I truly appreciate it. So thank you so much for having this interview with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.